Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a presentation. My name is Andrew Dawson. I'm the MD of a company called COGNIZANCE, and look forward to sharing our case study and overview of the business with you later today. This is shocking to be able to do a death by PowerPoint presentation. Far used to doing in presence ones, but be that as it may, I'll try not to belabor the point too much, and you'll have access to the presentations post this event. So I'm going to try and keep it as short and sweet and relevant as possible, and we'll spend a bit of time in Q&A as required. So here we go. What are we? What is Cognizance? I've been in the route to market space for a better part of 20 years now with a company called Mac Mobile, which I founded. When my son approached me 4 years ago with a thought around how we turn big data and analytics into real actionable call to action insights that can be generated from the data that's presented through ERP platforms and mobility, we jumped at the chance to see what this can do. And Cognizance, in essence, is a digital platform that has AI and ML powered structure behind it that allows us to take data and drive actionable calls. In other words, where are these issues and what is happening, and how do we resolve that using the data as the direction finder? And ultimately, what are we looking at? We are desperately looking at trying to mitigate revenue risk, right? And everything we do, and particularly this focus where we are within distribution companies, everything is around a revenue risk, because when you have high volumes and low margins, any deviation or any challenge in that route to market space has an impact on revenue risk. And by the same token, any opportunity that is created in that market, if you're not taking advantage of it as it happens, again, you're running the risk of losing out on revenue. So what you have here in this particular slide is a management overview that talks directly to revenue risk. And if you see on the left-hand side, the different types of dashboards, and we'll try and cover some of those in this presentation. But this particular dashboard looks at year-to-date net sales value, net sales volume, and net sales value and volume for the prior period as a comparative. And again, talks to product sold, unique customers, unique sold, and unique customers. So in one dashboard, a very quick overview of where you're making money, where you're not making money, and the ability to drill down deeper into that. So what have we done in these distribution companies? And we've worked with the CA sales group, and we've deployed this platform into 5 of their distribution companies. The case study we're running with is a company called Wuto, which is based in Namibia, a big distribution company, a $1 billion business. And we focused on 5 key areas when we put the platform in. And we're fortunate enough that the CEO there, a gentleman by the name of Pete Petersen, bought into the platform, realized that actionable data was the way to go, and certainly revolutionized the way he looked at his business from a deployment and running perspective. So what are the 5 key areas that we picked up and focused on? First of all, we wanted to be able to boost internal efficiencies, right? We wanted to be able to spend some time looking at distribution gap identification. In any distribution business, stock management is optimal. It's a key factor in any kind of profitability. Then looking at looked at the profitability analysis, and if you're a distributor and you represent multiple suppliers or principals, then we want to be able to simplify those commercial arguments. So I'll deal with each of these key criteria individually. So again, forgive me for the death by PowerPoint, but it's the only way we can go with these recorded sessions. So what drives Cognizance is the data. So yes, it's all the fancy stuff in there, and the massive amount of brain power that was used to build a platform that can ingest these massive chunks of data, mine them, and spit out these live actionable insights. But the granular data is important. And for us within the distribution business, we brought in the following data on a granular level, right down to SKU level. Sales data, stock levels, your incoming and outgoing stock quantities, admin and operating cost, gross profits, credits. We were able to put algorithms together to work out distribution and warehousing costs, as well as sales and merchandising and IT costs. So those are just an example of some of the data elements that we use within the Wuto business to create this platform of this. But let's look at the internal efficiency. So I'm trying to move this speaker face of mine around so we don't cover up the writing. But anyway, so the challenge internally within the group was on preparing analytical reports. Now, in any kind of ERP system where you have a BI tool and a visualization tool, the reports are still going to be created. There's still time substantial time put into prepare and design these analytical reports. And generally within the Wuto business, this was taking up at least up to a week of every month, depending on the availability and the cleanliness of the data that was made available. And the challenge that we're having is that any strategic shifts that happened during the month were only recognized and reported on at month end. So any revenue risk or opportunity that was generated was lost. Very difficult to go back retrospectively and recreate an opportunity a month, 5 weeks after that opportunity has been presented. So what did Cognizance deliver for Pete and his team? Effectively, it freed up their senior resources, and it really allowed the sales managers the ability to highlight performance based on a granular level, and to look at current strategy, amend, pivot, and pick up on wherever the identified growth opportunity was. Really, any kind of change or pivot that you can make because the market has shifted or adjusted, that you can make in real time, is a massive value add. And this is what we provided, and this is certainly one of the key areas that Pete Peterson picked up as the MD in Wuto. Budgeting. Your reps target, there's a multitude of ERPs and CRM platforms and Salesforce automation platforms that manage targets and budgets, etc., within the different platforms that there are out there at the moment. What we did within this platform in conjunction with Pete and his team, we started looking at the targets that had been set for the reps in this space. And we took the targets and we looked at the different budgets and we managed them according to the prior year's results. And then we identified the different suppliers. And what we did is we broke up into this matrix by supplier, by rep. And by putting this stuff into the data into the platform, we were able to start now driving the budget by rep, by supplier, and able to drill down into specific suppliers that are looked at a rep. So we can look at a supplier's target for the year and how's that tracking month on month. We can look at the difference between your net sales value current year to last year, what the budget is, what the percentage of budget's achieved, and the system does it automatically. So you have this daily adjustment that's in a live dashboard environment where we can set up the rules and the KPIs that talk to the relevant sales manager. For example, we're halfway through a month and we should be 60% of budget achieved, but we're only 30. Yes, the dashboard is live and it'll show you that, but it'll also auto email you or auto SMS you and say, hey, listen, you've got a problem. We're not tracking to budget in this space. Makes a massive difference to the sales execs, sales managers who really are balls to the wall driving the process as it is and don't necessarily have time to be reviewing dashboards. So KPI automation is a massive influence in this space. I mean, drill down to budget just by sales rep, by supplier. How effective are my reps doing? How effective is he in the different suppliers? Is he spending his time focused on one supplier versus others? For example, if we look at supplier 6 versus supplier 1, it's clear where he's spending his time. And if he's against or below budget, one between the other, then as a sales manager, I want to be pushing him to make sure that he's caught up on where his focus should be on the non-performing suppliers. Or is there a problem? You know, if he's behind budget and it's not his fault, what is the issue? I want to know about it now, not a month down the line when he has not achieved his budget or target for that month. And it just gives you another indication from a graphing perspective. So that takes care of the budget discussion, and I'm sure you get a view of the power that sits in that kind of platform. Distribution gap identification. Now, if you're a distribution company, gap analysis, understanding where your product is sitting, in what stores and ranged and distributed to, is a massive task. And if your product's not live on shelf in stores, not being sold, that's an impact on revenue and growth, right? So historically within the Wuto group, compiling a gap analysis was time consuming and manual, right? And as a calculation with not necessarily all the information that you need and require, and a fair amount was thumbs up. So within the platform, we built the gap analysis dashboard, which gave the team at Wuto the ability to drill down right down to product item, okay, to manage where we've seen a drop in sales or a drop in volume, and also a view of how many clients are in that universe and how many clients is this product actually ranged in, how many clients has this product actually been sold into, and where's there a gap, and what is the revenue gap or revenue opportunity within that customer universe, as well as new innovations. And new innovations is a key part of market growth and value growth. And we need to know where those new innovations have been deployed and sold into, and are they tracking across the entire ecosystem of the supplier universe that's available to us. And here's just an example of the dashboard. And again, guys, these numbers have all been anonymized, so they're really from an indicative purpose. But if you look here on the breakdown of selections, when we look at the different product items and product codes, the dashboard will give you the year-to-date value 2021 and any percentage change in year-to-date value from 2020 to 2021. It'll also talk about volume growth and what is the volume year-to-date 2020 versus year-to-date 2021. And we can see where there's been an incremental growth. Now, prices obviously has an influence in it. So we understand what the pricing was last year, what the pricing is this year, and the percentage of inflation. Then we're going to we have a good idea if there's been a volume or value change, what's been the driving force behind it. And then your unique customers. What is the size of the universe and how many unique customers are we selling into? This gives you a very good view in a single dashboard of what the customer sales gaps are and where we are from a SKU reporting perspective. And you can drill down into a product item. We can look at the different stores and the particular channel that store represents, whether it's traditional trade, commercial institution, etc. We can look at what the year-to-date total of those customers was last year, being 320, year-to-date 308, and then the total customer units of 442. So from a gap analysis perspective, we can see that in this particular product, it's not been ranged in 100 odd stores. So there's either a reason that that's not in the right channel, or there's a significant gap that we can take advantage of to have that product ranged across all customers, which would result in a significant revenue growth. Okay, stock management. Sure. In the years that we've been involved with software development and in this route to market space, stock management is obviously one of the key areas in any distribution company. Now, the challenge within these distribution companies, and particularly within Wuto, was stock on hand reports. These were manually extracted, emailed, and distributed internally. Your sales force out there, you know, they're selling blind in that there was no real idea what stock was live in store. In other words, They're selling a product but did not have visibility into the stock holding. And what is the rate of sale of this particular stock? Is there a run? Is there a promotion? If I sell now, are we able to deliver? All those have a direct influence on the relationship with your supplier, both on the customer side and the principal side. How do we resolve the challenge on the ground? Through the ERP integration, we started to build a view of both the current and forecasted stock holding, right? So we started to understand, based on rates of sale on the different product sets, the different SKUs, what stock holding should be held in the warehouses, and based on seasonal flow, etc. Do we have enough stock on hand to sustain the forecasted sales growth? And by the same token, also gave us an idea of what was not selling and where are we overstocked. And having a live dashboard that gave us an indication of both the sides of the business certainly allowed for a more profitable line of stock holding, and certainly increased the service levels to trade, and within the suppliers, increased the customer satisfaction, and from a Wuto's perspective, had a massive impact on their working capital management. Now, when you make this dashboard and this data available to the principals, who also now have a live view on the stock holding of their products in the distributor's warehouse, it starts adding a massive impact to that transparency discussion in terms of trust and communication. And this was a significant impact within Wuto, certainly within the multinationals that were signed onto this product, Unilever and Kimberly-Clark, for example. And here's an example of the dashboard, and like everything, the robot, the dark red, amber, green, and light red all signify examples of this particular dashboard with drill downs. And you'd have your different categories on the left for a particular supplier, and you'd be able to very quickly see that for category 1, we've got some challenges because there's a whole chunk of our category that is sitting in red, which means is that we don't have enough stock to satisfy the current rate of sale of that particular category. And if you break it down, you can get an indication of what we're talking about in this particular product item in warehouse A. From a free stock perspective, with product, we've got 50 on hand, we've got 56 units, allocates already been 6. 3 of those stock items are in picking, 3 have been picked. We've got 0 incoming quantity. Our monthly rate of sale is 80 units, weekly rate of sale is 20. So based on this product, we've literally got 2.5 weeks of cover. Now, with the replenishment rate that we have, the system's picking up that the rate of replenishment versus the rate of sale and what we've got, we're going to run out of stock. And unless there's an intervention done now, and that's what the system has done, is delivered an intervention, we're not going to have stock to sell into market, which means our reps need to be advised that they need to pull back on selling the stock, so we don't create a supplier and principal conflict. Okay. Profitability analysis, right? Now, in a distribution business where we look at the difference between high margin and low margin items and the mix of products in sales, right? Particularly where you have a distribution route over an extended distance, and your product mix on that truck or the product mix on that fleet needs to be quantified so that you're actually making profit. And a chunk of this came out in the COVID times, where the system picked up that for this particular organization, some of those routes into the more rural areas were starting to cost money, because we'd seen a shift in consumer spend to more staples. So what had happened is that the retailers themselves adjusted their purchase from warehouse, and the market mix was a lot more geared towards staples than the more profitable items, which meant that there was a profitability shift in the actual load itself. And the system picked this up on the first load that was delivered into store, and once the data had moved into the platform, which allowed the guys to touch sides with the principal and have a renegotiation around the product mix and the costing element that goes with it. Historically, this would have been done at the end of the month, and you suddenly picked up that you've lost your boots on this particular route and that particular product mix. Excuse me. So in this profitability analysis, some of the key areas of concern that we're now being able to visualize where are the margins, where we can look at a product's profitability by region, by town, by store, and by customer group, and the ability to showcase profitability within the clients, particularly within divisions and categories, right? And where we find that products are loss-making, it's about sitting down with a principal, and it leads into that commercial argument discussion, where we can show that the products are not making money because of the related consumer shift, et cetera, et cetera. And here's just an example of the dashboard. And again, these are anonymized figures, but if you look at the total business performance year on year, and through the data that runs through the system, we can see the net effect on year-on-year revenue movement, net effect on year-on-year cost as a percentage of revenue, which is decreased, net effect of year-on-year percentage GP margin, and then we can look at the incremental business performance year-on-year. So from a CFO's perspective and a CEO's perspective in a single dashboard on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, you've got an impact dashboard that's telling you exactly where your problem is, what's driving it, what's not, where you're making money, where your growth opportunity is, and then using that to manage your mix of products and making sure that you stay in the green on your distribution routes and market mix. And this is just an indication of some of the drill down in that operating loss, where we can start identifying, if you click into a category, you can look at the two different periods. What are we doing period 1 versus period 2? And we can see that in this particular instance, category 1 is the market leader, and there's small but incremental growth in category 2 and category 3. And if we drill that into category 1, we can see that the product group 4 and product group 7 are certainly the drivers in terms of revenue. And then it's about, well, what's happening within the products 1 to 3, 5, 8, and 9? And are we really, by investing in those products, is it costing us money? Is it worthwhile? Should we not be focusing just on products group 4, 5, 6, and 7? So it really prompts a discussion around what's working for us, what's not working for us. Is there a pricing issue? Is there a distribution issue? And picking that up with the principal as well. And then just a deeper dive into the profitability for category 1, product 4. So the system really has the capability to drill down into a very granular level. You can start understanding where you're making money, where you're losing money. And here we go, particularly, we've got a category 1, which we showed was underperforming. And we can see that prior year, it's not got any better. From previous year to this current year, we've certainly lost value in the categories that we're talking about. And it's an overall dashboard that summarizes the principal profitability, right? So where are you operating with your supplier? And this has always been a discussion of note within the distribution companies. Now, where are you making your money? Who's your most profitable principal? And what the dashboard does is it breaks it down into your gross profit, net sales value, total cost, net sales value, and through through the data flow that we're getting from the distributor, we're able to understand the percentages of breakdown of costs, distribution, warehousing, sales and merchandising, admin, IT, just for example. And you can drill down in the dashboards right down through to the admin costs, and it'll break it down for you. So very powerful indicator by principle, so you can start understanding where your profit drivers are, and certainly where your cost drivers are. And all this leads into the commercial discussions, and we call them arguments here. And I'm sure there's a lot of guys out there that will tell me that they're not arguments. So for semantics' sake, in the WUTO environment, this challenge of putting the commercial discussions together would take many management days and would only be available at month end, which certainly negated the opportunity for these guys to engage as these issues were taking place on the ground. Cognizance was able to identify and point out live regional shifts, right? Now, regional shifts that influence distribution costs positively and negatively identifies and certainly highlights where correct margins are being paid by a client. You don't want to be you do want to be overpaid, but it's probably not fair. You certainly don't want to be underpaid. And Cognizance was able to identify the regional shifts and start giving a true reflection on the margins that are being paid based on the work that's been done. The credit report based on stock return by buying group, by supplier, town, and store. So for that selected period, returns are a massive issue in any kind of distribution business. And depending on the commercial policy that's attached to returns, it can have a significant impact on the profitability of the business. So having a live view of returns in that credit report certainly gives the distributor the ammunition to engage with the supplier to put pressure on the different stores and provide the buying group management a much deeper insight into cost savings within the different groups and stores. They also give us a detailed line of sight, particularly on potential KVI lines that are available by region, town, and store. And the data in the system allows us to identify the right regions at the right price and to connect with the correct buying groups. Everything talks to engagement and transparency with the principal, and everyone talks off the same hymn sheet with actual facts as opposed to summations and gut feel and history and experience. And we do this because we've done it like this for the last 15 years. Cognizance brings science into the discussion, and it brings real indisputable fact because it's the actual sales and distribution figures that are coming into the platform. And this is an example of the dashboard that the guys were using to have these open discussions with the principals, where we looked at region based on quantity for selection. We got the different time periods. We look at the different regions, the actual quantity shipped, the distribution percentage into the different regions. And then we can look at the distribution costs as a percentage of net sales value. Now, what this does internally is it allows the distribution company to understand where his distribution costs are sitting. And if we can understand what the percentage net sales value looks like versus that distribution cost, we can very quickly identify where your more profitable distribution lines are. And if we're doing a lot more work into, for example, here, the far north, and my distribution costs there are almost 3 times what they are in terms of my local distribution, well, then my margin to distribute into that far north should be adjusted, and to make sure that the returns are weighted and make sense to me as a distribution company. And if I look then at the different periods, we can see that by adjusting my negotiations with the principal, my weighted distribution costs as percentage of net sales value changed from this period last year to this period 2021 year to date. And these are indicative numbers again, but you'll get a good feel for how you can identify as an executive driving this business really where your key issues are from a distribution perspective. So if we had to consolidate the view of what Cognizance does from a consolidated management perspective, in essence, we take all the distribution data, the supplier data, the retailer data, and whether that's sales in or sales out, and that data is mapped into our data lake, which sits in the Google Cloud, and through there the platform ingests and we mine the data, and we put through, in this particular instance with CA sales, is one of the key requirements was a standardization in naming conventions. Let me just give this as an example. For example, a Unilever or a Kimberly-Clark product sold in Logico in Eswatini, or Wuto in Namibia, or CA sales Botswana, there's different naming conventions for the same product. So what we're able to do within our platform is to standardize that naming convention. So from a consolidated management perspective, both the principal who's in charge of the 3-4 different regions has a consolidated dash view of all his businesses in a single view, and the same with the CFO of the CA sales group, or the CEO of CA sales group, having a single view of what's happening in their business directly through the data lake. It makes a massive difference in terms of understanding what is happening, who's not profitable, where the money is being made, etc. So a real significant value proposition to the group and to the individual distribution companies. And when we start adding automated accountability in real time, and this is where we started to get a little bit more involved in the formal retail, where we were able to, with those retailers that we were able to link into, as well as part of the distribution side of it, we were really started to able to understand what was happening on shelf. And from a merchandising perspective, we were able to pick up the revenue risk within the retail environment for this particular brand or category of goods that we were supplying for. I think Kimberly-Clark, it sits in our Kanban board. And again, these are numbers that are anonymized. But in essence, through the point of sale data that we got through these particular retailers, in this instance, we are working with Checkers and Pick n Pay and Massmart, where we're getting real-time point of sale data through their system. The Kanban dashboard allowed us to understand through the point of sale and stock in store and stock in DC data where the problems were. What is the revenue at risk? Is there a sales dip due to ordering issues? In other words, there's no stock to pack on shelf. The Kanban then auto assigns the merchandiser or the merchandising individual that's in that retailer a job card to go and right now go and fix that that merchandising problem. It then quantifies the financial impact. It provides a deadline for that job to be done, and through the integration to the mobility platform, and in this case it's Make Mobile, we were able to push the job card, get it repaired, and if it wasn't repaired, then the job card's escalated to the supervisor. So really driving granular accountability on the ground in the formal retail as well as the distribution. So effectively closing the loop from principal through distributor into retail, and really understanding what's happening with your product, who's accountable, and making sure you're getting the best bang for your buck from a distribution and sales perspective. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is me for the day. I really thank you for your time. Happy to answer any questions, or please dive into our booth and come and have a chat. Let us know if we can help you with anything. Reach us on cognizance.processing. All our contact details are there. So really appreciate your time, and thank you.